What up, guys? Wanted to do an update on Bitcoin since it's been a while. Last time we talked was about losing the 200-week moving average. And as you know, recently our stance on Bitcoin has shifted completely from, mega bullish, where, we're, essentially it comes down to we're in this channel, and I was bullish as long as we stayed in the channel. The moment we lost it, um, a change in trend, a change in a 7, 8 year trend is pretty significant, even if it means we consolidate between a period. We could consolidate, or we could have a very hard sell off and then maybe start a new channel again for multiple years. But as of now, we're transitioning from an uptrend to something a little more, volatile, whether it's kind of ranging between a period moving sideways or we start trending lower. And my theory is we're probably going to trend a little lower, maybe do something like a descending triangle. You guys saw this in the last video, but before I continue, it's not financial advice. Please do your own due diligence before making any type of investment. They're all risky, so definitely want to research, follow your intuition, do as much homework as you can on any type of investment you do, because you could predict a trend. You could see that, maybe eventually this is going to go to 1 million, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to do what you expect it to do right in the moment. In fact, it usually does the opposite. So anyways, in the last video, we talked about losing this 200 week, and we're actually closing below it before finishing up and getting a green candle back over the 200 week moving average. Now, go watch the last video if you haven't on Bitcoin, but I actually talked about how we'd probably recover over here, get a relief bounce, and then eventually we'll lose it again. And I think it's still playing out that way. I don't know if it's going to move exactly like this, most likely not. I was just trying to kind of show you guys my general outlook on how I felt it would move. But right now we're over the 200 week. I expect us to at least retest it, if not lose it straight up. And I think this really comes down to that underlying thesis of COVID-19 is a lot more serious, at least from a economic perspective. The pandemic itself and the lives that it's affecting is horrible. It's a black swan event, in my opinion, even though the fatality rate isn't as high. It's definitely a black swan event. It's put the world on a standstill, and I think that's going to have very grave implications on all asset classes: real estate, stocks, Bitcoin. I think gold might do well, but you never know with deflation. We're living in a very deflationary world, and as much as you guys want to say that the feds could print money and this is very good for Bitcoin because it's hyperinflationary, well, there's also a lot of dollar denominated debt around the world, so they're not really printing enough money to satisfy that demand. So I think there's two sides to that story, and I could talk about that in another video. But what I expect from Bitcoin here is kind of like relief. Personally, I think we're getting kind of ready to sell off. I think this resistance zone is going to be hard to get out of, but we could easily shoot up to, at max, I could see us hitting this gray channel, this gray line, trend line down, and then getting rejected and falling down. I expect it to be a little choppy up until like May, June time, and regardless of what we do, I think we may sell off hard, and then we'll probably see relief rally into the halving, and then another major downturn. Because usually June, July, quarter 2, quarter 3 is a some sort of topping period for Bitcoin, and like right here in July, it had that big run, after it had been falling. I mean, really in June it was falling, but then it had a low top in June right here. June had a top. June had a top. I've talked about this in a previous video, so I'm not gonna dive too far in, but usually during June, it's usually pretty high. So we'll see what happens around June, July time. But I still think this is bearish, guys, and I think this is probably going to like 2,000 minimum, but most likely lower. Like, if we hit this range, oh God, I will buy all the Bitcoin I can buy in this range. Like, I'll be so happy if we're gifted this. I don't know if it's gonna happen. I kind of expect us to go to 1,000, at least 1,500. We're definitely going under 2,000 in my opinion, but a safe range to really start thinking about scaling into Bitcoin if you're in it for the long haul. 2,000 to 3,000, that's a steal. Especially once we break down and start hitting new lows. I think there's going to be a great opportunity in Bitcoin. I just don't think it's now. A couple fundamental factors that I actually want to talk about that could really propel Bitcoin, and I think this is actually setting up in our global market, so it'll be interesting to see. I think what we're going to have is a liquidity crisis, and liquidity crises, they have huge run-ups in commodities, the currencies. People are like flocking to cash, and when they can't get cash because there is a dollar shortage, at the end they turn to alternatives like gold and silver. And I think there's going to be a lot of speculation into whether this system's going to end or not. So I think over the next 2-3 years, we're either going to see a reset, or we're going to see a major topping period for gold, where it has a real crazy blow off top into like 3,000, 5,000 range, and then it starts leveling out for multiple years before starting a new bull trend, or inflation starts picking up. But I think we're very far from inflation. So in this kind of scenario, this could also be mega bullish for Bitcoin. So what if people start flocking to Bitcoin? It's easy to transfer. It's a lot more portable than gold. It's the first digital currency that's decentralized of its kind. So there's no power, and we're in a system with a lot of distrust. Take United States for example. Income inequality is so high, and it it's really upsetting to see that people are so poor in the richest country in the world. And then you have to think like, how do a lot of people live in other countries? And everyone's struggling, and it's because these elites are too damn powerful. So Bitcoin solves that, and it would be great if we could have a system, or some kind of push that can even the playing field. And I think Bitcoin is that. I just don't know if it's ready yet. So anyways, guys, it wasn't all technical analysis today. I think there's a lot going on in the world that we have to pay attention to. But, for the most part, I think this is kind of moving the way we thought it would. I'm personally expecting a little sell-off, at least in the short term. And if we lose the 200 week again, I think it's going to be, we're going to start having to look at like 3,000. I think that those previous lows, we're going to have to start looking there for our next long. And yeah, if we do bounce off the 200 and we just kind of consolidate, I think that'll be a good sign, and then we could probably catch it for a run into, June, July, and then we'll probably see another major sell-off. And yeah, that's it for today, guys. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Like, comment, subscribe. Sorry for, not putting out as much Bitcoin content now, or even beforehand, but, my opinion is, when you invest, you don't really need to make a video every day. You could, state your point. I could state my point for the next couple weeks, next couple months, next couple years right now. So don't really feel the need to, but there's a lot of exciting. It's kind of sad, actually. A lot of crazy stuff happening in the world. I'll put it that way. I wouldn't say exciting, but there's a lot of crazy stuff happening in the world. So definitely going to be trying to cover a lot of those topics as well. But alright, guys, we'll see you in the next video.